It is my pleasure to be able to introduce you to another Dickinsonian. So we have 4 Dickinsonians from Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, that have banded together to really talk about ticks, and to do more than talk, to take action and try to help make a change in the world. This infectious disease, COVID-19, that we're living with right now is something that we are very familiar with infectious disease. Certainly they're different, each of them, but there's a lot of lessons we've learned through this. And one of the greatest lessons I've learned is how incredible the Dickinson community is. I met Stephen Smith, our next speaker, who is the LL Bean CEO now, but I met him as a friend my freshman year at Dickinson, and was the athletic trainer for the basketball team, and got to know him that way as well. And you know, Steve is a very tall man, but he fills those shoes and that stature so amazingly well. And oddly, as we're all in this physical distancing time, doesn't mean that we have to actually socially distance. And so just as I was able to reconnect with Carrie via Facebook, the same thing happened with Steve and our next speaker, Andrew Knupp, who is our other Dickinson alum that's here. And I was able to reach out to him and say, I saw your daughter going off to college, and I'm so thrilled for that. My sons weren't able to do that because they haven't finished high school yet, because they got so sick. And you have this amazing platform to make a difference in people who are working in the outside world. For LL Bean, being an outsider, be an outsider, right? Being an outsider. We want them to be an outsider for a lifetime. And I reached out to Steve just via Facebook Messenger, and would you be willing to talk? I think that we might be able to prevent this so other people don't have to battle the way that we did. And Steve said yes, and he continues to say yes. And he's saying yes in so many ways throughout the world right now to help not only with tick-borne and mosquito and vector-borne diseases, as he's going to talk about with what LL Bean's doing, but he's also taking a critical role in the world right now with this global pandemic that we're facing. Steve is one of the kindest souls that I know, a brilliant man, and a fantastic father and husband. And so it is my real pleasure to be bringing back a classmate and dear friend to you all to meet now. So I will hand this over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Heather. Can you hear me okay?
You sure can.
Awesome. Really happy to be back at TikTok, and Heather and Carrie, thanks for inviting me back. We are, I mean, just as a pause, we are in extraordinary times with COVID-19, and it is truly scary, but I am happy that we are able to get together and that you decided to do this virtually. The tick-borne diseases continue to just be incredibly serious across the country. So I'm psyched that we're doing this again. Our business has changed massively, and so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our plans that we did have for the spring and summer of 2020, which are all challenged right now with all of our stores closed and sales down 50% or so. But after I talked to Heather and Carrie before last year's TikTok, and just got much more educated about what was happening around tick-borne diseases, and sort of realized the role that we could play as an outdoor retailer. We already had some fantastic products. We had products called No Fly Zone, and another product called Insect Shield, that are fabrics that have permethrin built into the actual production of the product. And after we did TikTok last year and got this sort of fired up, we actually doubled our, actually more so 2.5 times increased the buy of those products to be able to do a campaign around mosquito and tick-borne illnesses and try to get our products into more people's hands. And so those products are all here and in stock and available online, but we're not doing the promotions around it just because we're being really sensitive about marketing and trying to sell things in a global pandemic and trying to be sensitive to people's other needs. But we're really psyched, and still, you know, from a long term, incredibly psyched about all the products. We added a whole kids line with hoodies. We added accessories, which were, you know, socks and scarves and dog coverings, sweaters or whatever, all permethrin covered, as well as, jackets and pants and all that kind of stuff. So when we get back to whatever the new normal is going to be, we'll kick those plans back into place and take, sort of more of a leadership role around this. But the products we do have, which is great. And then we have an amazing health and wellness center as part of Alum, and we really take care of our employees, mental and physical health as well. And Stephanie Harvey, who's one of the leaders in that organization, after last year, just organized a lot of really great internal messaging for our own employees who themselves are leaders in the outdoor industry. And so that's everything from educating everybody through intranet news articles, organizing walks, trail cleanups, trail signage. We own a lot of acreage in the greater Freeport area with trails on them, and making sure that we had tick awareness signage. And then we have our outdoor discovery programs, which is an entire business for us, which has hundreds of thousands of participants doing outdoor activities. And we have fully embedded, tick awareness and tick prevention, tick-borne disease prevention materials in that. So really psyched about all of that, and happy, when we get on the other side of this, to be able to promote that a little bit more. But just proud to continue to help. And I get tons of inspiration from Carrie and Heather to make sure that we're pushing this part of our business strategy. That's a little bit around Bean. And again, I love being a part of this, and I appreciate being invited in. And then my second duty, which is actually really my first duty, is I have the honor of introducing my best friend. And so I know this is an education and an academic and a business-oriented TikTok, but Andrew Knupp, who is also Andy and is really Knupper to me, so I may switch in and out of any one of those names as I'm introducing Knupper. But we met freshman year, same with Heather as well. We were all freshman year friends. And Andy and I were super close all the way through college, and then we were roommates in New York City after we graduated. I moved to Maine. I spent 6 years trying to convince him to move to Maine, him and his wife Tara, who also is Dickinson 91, to move to Maine. We convinced him to move to Maine. Within 6 months of that, we left for 12 years. We went all around the world. And then we came back to Maine in 2016 and remained best friends through all of that. Andy has two daughters who are best friends with my two daughters. And even though we had distance for all those years away from Maine, just have an incredibly close relationship. So, and Andy has had an awesome career. So Dickinson 92, then did a really cool set of entrepreneurial things right after graduation. Then went back to NYU, Stern Business School, got his MBA, came out of Stern, and he then came up to Maine and worked for the VIA agency, which is an outstanding marketing strategy and advertising agency here in Portland, Maine. It's been the agency of the year many, many times. And so that was his entry into marketing and advertising. And then after that, he jumped over to IDEXX. And IDEXX is an incredible company. And for those of you who, if it's new to learn about IDEXX, I would encourage you to do some research around them. Publicly traded, based here in Maine, incredible veterinary medicine, veterinary diagnostics company, started entrepreneurially and now is just a huge success and growing, incredibly, very successful. And he's been there 16 years, which is amazing to me. I remember when he started there. And he is the Associate Director of Companion Animal Immunoassays. And every time we get together, which is about every week, I always ask him what he's doing and what he's working on, because I never understand his title, but I love the stuff that he's working on. And then the connection is last year when we were getting ready for the TikTok, I was trying to get educated about just tick stuff. And I had lots of information from Heather and Carrie. But obviously, Andy, who I literally see every week, not right now during social distancing, but in our normal lives, I was asking about, just materials, and he had just a huge amount of information and research and resources, and what the animal industry is doing around tracking tick-borne diseases and different types of ticks, and how they're impacting animals and the world was just amazing. And so Carrie and Heather reached out to him and asked him to come in and share some some stuff from his perspective and from IDEXX perspective. So sorry, it's a really long introduction. I've never had to introduce Andy before, but I'm psyched to do it. And it's fun when you get to introduce your best friend. And I will kick it over, I think, to Knupper, or Andrew Robert Knupp, class of 92.
Actually, we're going to kick it over to Carrie to
Oh,
introduce
okay,
the
good.
co-presenter as well, so we can get to know Nicole, and Andy. Andrew will be talking about the data around ticks and what we're learning from that to kick off our day. Thanks so much, Steve. We
Thanks,
so
Heather.
appreciate you finding time in your busy life for us.
You bet.
So take care. And Carrie, I'll hand this over to you now.
Yeah,